All right. So I am here with Grace Golden, who is a former athletic trainer and is now the program director for the post-grad athletic training program at the University of Oregon. So Grace, you have been an athletic trainer at UNLV,
Hmm.
Stanford, TCU. You went and got your graduate degree from Oregon State in your PhD in exercise, sport, and science. You went on to be an associate athletic trainer at UCLA. And as I said previously, now you're the program director for the post-grad athletic training program at the University of Oregon. So this is going to be, I think, a really, really interesting and powerful segment for kids and parents to hop on and to listen to, coming from an athletic trainer, coming from an educator, about what student athletes need to do and should do, not only to take care of their bodies, but to take care of their mental health. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So tell me, Grace, how athletes can navigate the multitude of ways um, that they need to assist in their physical and their emotional and mental health and well-being.
Yeah, well, thanks for the invite to participate, Willette. I'm excited to contribute to this discussion. Yeah, there's so many places to start, and so the idea is now you're entering this new chapter of your life, and I'm assuming it's going to be a very exciting one. Like, I've gotten to the school, I've gotten to the program that I want to, I'm working with the coaches that I want to, and part of the transition that I often navigate is sometimes athletes are coming to university, college, and they've not had access to this type of healthcare before. Like, who are these people who are athletic trainers that are there to assist, depending upon whether they had one in high school, and even if they had one in high school or junior college, now it may be that you have this person that's even more accessible to you, and they're communicating with coaches, and you're onboarding your pre-participation physical, and you're doing all this preseason testing and all these performance measures, and like, what does all this mean, and what does this healthcare system do for me
Right.
as an athlete, right? It can be completely foreign to some people in terms of their accessibility before. And so the first thing I would say is just try to get to know your healthcare provider, your athletic trainer. I mean, I think most of us come from a place of wanting to engage in conversation. We're wanting to know about someone's previous health history, but also it's important for us to ask kind of what their thoughts are around healthcare. There's cultural differences, there are community differences, there's accessibility differences that sometimes if we don't ask those questions from our side, then we're not going to get to know what the person's experiences are. So that's on us. But I'm also wanting to encourage these student athletes to have a voice into communicating those things to the person, and get to know your healthcare provider. They're going to be an integral part of your 2 or 4 year experience. Like, these are people you're typically going to see 5, 6, 7 days a week, sometimes multiple times a day. They're going to be typically at your practice sessions. So let them advocate for you, and in doing so, you should advocate for yourself, and just in terms of speaking up when you have an issue. I think sometimes there's a perception that athletic trainers, if I tell Grace, then she's going to hold me out, and it's like, no, we are actually in a position to really help you participate as long as it's safe to, even with some sort of injury. That sounds counterintuitive, but we're good at problem solving and find ways to modify practice. In the meantime, we have resources and services and skills available to help you recover, right? And to get healthier potentially faster. So it's a relationship that is really, really important. If you do get injured, these people, and then they're like the athletic trainer's ability to, consult with physicians and collaborate with other healthcare providers, either on the campus or in the community. It can open avenues for you that can be really, really helpful. So there's a lot to take in. First of all, who are these people? I don't know how to access this. So have those conversations, invite even small talk around things that don't seem important, and that can help you maybe get some confidence and trust in that person. And then beyond that, you're going to have to, in this transition, we were just talking about this before we started recording, but your life kind of changes, which you would expect. But you enter college, and before, if you were coming from a high school situation, you would have, say, a class schedule that you was pretty regular and routine and consistent. You know, you arrive on campus at a certain time and you go through classes, and at the end of the day you start practice, and you know, then you go home and you eat and you study and so on. But college is, even though you have fewer classes you might attend, you're actually more chaotic and trying to get to places. Like, I have a 30-minute break here, and then I've got to go there, and then they want to squeeze in another meeting over here, and I've got to find a way to get there, to commute to get to wherever that part of campus is. Oh, I have a small break, and I know I'm being treated for an injury, and I know I told my athletic trainer I would stop in that small break so they could take a look. So by the time practice starts in the afternoon, we have a better sense of where I'm at. Like, all of those little decisions that you make on how to use your time, it's a little bit more chaotic, I would say. And so in that transition, really finding a way to know your schedule and take ownership of your schedule and be true to your word, to be places that you're going to be. And if you're struggling, like, ask for help. Like, say, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to keep on top of my schedule. So, and there's a lot of ways to navigate that, but you know, don't be afraid to ask for assistance. And then once you've gotten that direction and that assistance, and then use those new tools to say, I've got this. I know how to get there. I know if I'm going to be late, I'm going to communicate that I'm going to be being late, and you know, kind of stepping into that next tier of responsibility as you navigate the newness of all the things that are going on around you.
I think what you said is just so powerful, because kids have no idea sometimes when they're entering college how to really manage their time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that Next Step provides, is some tools and strategies around that, and really emphasizing how important time management is going to be at the next level. You also talked about something that was really important. You have student athletes who are facing this new experience, this new identity, this new beginning, this new journey, and they're overwhelmed just with that in general. So bringing the fact that they have to answer to so many more people, not just their coaches, not just their head coach, not just their assistants, but now they have the athletic trainer, the director of operations, their academic advisor, possibly their learning specialist, their nutritionist, and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
So fitting all of those appointments, so to speak, in a day's time or a week's time can be really, really overwhelming. So I think you touched on some really great aspects to share with our listeners. So next question for you. As an athletic trainer, you dealt with so many freshmen, right? You dealt with them coming through, and again, this new transition. I know you haven't been an athletic trainer for about, what, 7 years, possibly?
Yeah,
But,
I've been volunteering
okay,
just within the U of O athletics and mentoring our
perfect.
graduate students. So I'm still a certified athletic trainer, but in terms of being in the athletic training room or clinic, you know, on a daily basis as my full-time job, this is my 12th year at U of O. So,
Right.
so it's been a minute.
Right. So looking back, what do you remember about sort of that transition? Now, student athletes, they're practicing harder, they're spending more time, their days are longer, not getting enough sleep. What do you remember about those times, and what are you able to share with us now that you shared with those student athletes then?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing I'm first going back to, which again might even make things a little overwhelming for the student athlete, but you know, the first time official practice starts, or even a few days before that, there's going to be a meeting where the athletic trainer comes in and says, hey, these are the services we have available. These are the things I can do for you. And the first thing I would say is just believe them when they say that. And some of those things, maybe you're like, I didn't even know that was a thing, right? I wasn't sure that I could access that. So take advantage, provides those options for you. The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to be, the student athlete is going to be navigating, there's kind of some rules around things you can and can't do, and what type of services could you accept from someone. So when you're confronted by outside people from that program, make sure you connect with your healthcare provider and your coaches to say, this person offered like this recovery technique or whatever. So check in with your home base, so that you stay connected to your tribe and your community, so that you protect yourself as well. This sounds like strange to say, but there's a lot of people who want to take advantage of the student athlete, particularly if they're someone who's, you know, a top recruit. And so to have those communications with your coaching staff, with your medical staff, but that's kind of a small thing. I think part of the answer goes back to what I was saying before, is you have to find your voice to ask. And different people, different student athletes come in with greater or lesser confidence to have that voice. Sometimes people are very comfortable saying, I have a question about that, or I don't understand that, or why are we doing that, or why is this necessary for me, or what can this do to help me. Certainly keep that voice, but I think the people who struggle more are the people who come in and they're really confident in their skills around their sport and succeeding on the court, let's say on the pitch, on the baseball field, softball field, whatever that it is. But those who aren't as comfortable having conversations with people, you almost have to remind yourself, I'm entering this new stage, and I have to just pick even small steps to engage and ask questions, and it's part of the maturation process. And for me, that's why I loved working college athletics, because I would see this person come in at 18 years old and be maybe really talented on the court, but not as confident as a young woman or a young man. And so to see that evolution and transition over those 4 years, where they take ownership of their ownership of themselves, right? Instead of letting other people dictate, it's like, no, these things are important to me. I value this in myself, and getting more confident in conversation, in energy that they express off of the playing, out of the competition, if you would. So just really encouraging people who maybe are, I don't want to use the even word shy, but more introverted, more shy, and just taking little steps to, and tell yourself, like, today I know this is going to be hard, but I want to have this conversation with so-and-so about this, or I want to follow up with my athletic trainer and learn more about this. And hopefully those things continue to improve the person's confidence. So after a few months, or even after that first season, hopefully you can step back and reflect and go, man, look how much I've changed since when I've got here. And I'm so much more confident navigating the system, if you would. And I've figured out things, and let that give you more confidence even heading into the next year. So yeah, I guess the short part of that is just, if you know you're someone, or you've been told to speak up, then there's probably some people are telling you that because they're trying to invest in you. So,
well, I think that's really powerful, because one of the pieces of our programming for Next Step is being able to advocate for yourself. And if you don't advocate for yourself, not many people will. So you have to be able to have those tough conversations. So we really dive in deep. Last question, and this has been absolutely amazing. So again, thanks for joining me. But last question, tell me what athletes can do to benefit their own physical health, housekeeping, in order to prevent injuries and to help recovery after injuries, and to just basically take care of their bodies.
Yeah, that's, we could talk.
That's a loaded one.
Yeah, it's a loaded one, but for all the right reasons. I'm going to start with the ending in mind. So if we use this concept backwards design, so like knowing that when you go to college, we talked about the chaotic schedule, a lot of people vying for your time. You're still wanting to have time for yourself, and like, where do you fit that in to socialize, connect with family, etc. So you have only so many hours in a day. And so I think a lot of what gets compromised in all of that likely is sleep. Like sleep gets compromised significantly now. And for all the reasons that, because we have so much accessibility to interconnectivity through social media and different ways to communicate with people, I think a lot of young student athletes who need that time to connect with family and friends, and maybe friends that are outside of their team environment, like it's healthy, right? Like you're going to go into war with your teammates, and you're battling day to day on the court, and you're trying to get better, and you have the team has a goal, et cetera. And that's a really important family. But you also have friends from your hometown, or lifetime friends who aren't on the campus, or new friends that you're making on campus, and you have your family who may not be close by. They could be in different time zones, et cetera. And so I think sleep gets compromised because at the end of the day, after that last tutoring session gets done, you're trying to find some time to unwind. I think a lot of young student athletes and collegiate students they spend too much time drifting deeper and deeper into the social media and interconnectivity. And then if you've got to get up early the next morning for weight training or conditioning or whatever that it is, it's going to catch up with you. You really can't regain your sleep if you continually be sleep deprived. So that would be my first encouragement, is just gain some confidence in setting some limits for yourself and say, listen, I know that I'm going to turn things out at 10:30 or 11. And it may seem like, oh, I'm never going to connect with people, but maybe you through the week say, I'm not going to connect with everyone at the end of the day, I'm going to connect with certain people. But just give yourself an appointment for yourself and say, I'm going to turn the social media off, I'm going to set the phone aside, I'm going to turn the laptop off or whatever, and just be quiet, right? Just give your body and your mind a chance to be quiet, so all the chaos from the day can kind of settle. And there's more physiology and science around sleep in the last 5 or 6 years than we've ever had. And we know it's not just the college student athlete, it's society in general. So we're staying up later, we're always connected, and there's this kind of fear of missing out if I don't connect. But trust your good friends, your parents, they're still going to be there for you. If you say, I've got to get some sleep tonight, it's really important that I shut things off. And I think over time they'll start to respect that schedule for you. Because if you come into practice, you're talking about prevention. If you come into practice, if you're sleep deprived and you're chronically sleep deprived, your performance is not going to continue to progress. You're going to make more mistakes. You can't be learning the things you're supposed to be learning as quickly. And on the far side of things, when we participate in sports where we have to be reactive and responsive to the environment, we're not going to be as reactive and responsive. And so their question would lie then, are we more at risk of injury, let's say, overuse injury, because physiologically we're kind of depleted. We didn't get to rejuvenate through our sleep cycles. If our reactivity is even mildly impacted, does that lead to that acute injury to the knee or to the ankle or to whatever? So I'm not saying there's a direct correlation, but there is a relationship there. And I think we're more sensitive to that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and that's all tied into our personal hygiene, not just brushing our teeth and taking showers, but this idea that our personal hygiene is our sleep habits, it's our nutritional habits. If you have access to a nutritionist and you need advice, like please seek their help. Don't be embarrassed to say, I'm not quite sure like how to eat correctly or how to make better choices. Like use those resources. Hydration, of course, it's just a big thing. Always staying hydrated. So that good sleep hygiene, good hydration, good nutrition on the back end can be a really good foundation for you to stay healthier over the course of the time, and probably see your performance improve, have the opportunity to improve. It's hard to improve physically when the physiological prep in the background hasn't been accommodated. So
yeah, no, I think that's some really good information. I just remember when I was coaching and kids would just come in just tired, and you'd ask them, what's the deal? Well, I was up till 1 o'clock studying, but probably some social media was thrown in there too, some connections with friends. So I think that's all really good information. I think it really hits home for a lot of student athletes. And it's going to be really, really critical in the transition
Mhm.
of taking care of yourself and managing your time and being at your best daily and giving it everything you have. And if you don't have anything, you can't give. So you've
Exactly.
got to be able to have to give. So great information. Grace, thank you. Thank you for dropping some really amazing information and important information. And it's just, I think it's really helpful to our listeners and to student athletes who are thinking about or planning on transitioning to college athletics. You really mapped out what that's going to look like for them. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you again sharing.
Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Willette. I really
Okay.
appreciate it and support the mission of what you're doing. I would, if I was in a position where I knew there were some athletes coming in, I'd be like, hey, listen, if you're concerned about this transition, here's a resource for you. So I think what you're doing is incredibly important, particularly in the current climate that we're in with athletes from high school or community college
Yeah,
transitioning to college. Very important.
absolutely. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.